Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Duffy Duck here once again, and I am from the likes of the Merxy Toys videos, and today ladies and gentlemen we'll present to you our brand new Let's Play for our YouTube channel for the Merxy Toys that we've been doing for quite a long time actually, which is, kind of think about it, I'm actually really looking forward to doing this Let's Play alongside with the forms of other Donkey Kong games in the future, most notably with the most iconic series of all time, which is of course the Donkey Kong Country series. To be more specifically, the original Donkey Kong Country. This game did first came out, by the way, the intro is really funny, especially because Cranky Kong did manage to able to chuck the actual TNT barrel right in the actual, radio box when basically Donkey Kong is actually up for the beat, and then basically then it just immediately explodes and then the title screen shows up. So yeah, pretty classical I should say. So even then though, then again that this game did first came out in 1994, which I can't believe it's been about 25 years since when this game did first came out on the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom. By the way, if for those of you who lived in Japan, this game is also known as Super Donkey Kong because, you know, Super Famicom was a Japanese console, which is usually, it's kind of like the, another name for the Super Nintendo for the different country or whatever. So even then, now that's as far as I can usually think about it. So, as you can see from the actual quality standpoint, I'm actually going to be playing this on the Wii U's Virtual Console re-release version of the game, because I was going to able to do this on my original white Nintendo Wii's Virtual Console version, but turns out I just had some little bit of issues with the forms of like, specifically the Hertz mode, because for whatever reason, it just keeps on decreasing it into 25 Hertz, which I think it's not as pleasant to look at. So even then though in this case, we'll just have to play us on the Wii U Virtual Console instead. So even then though, as you can see from the actual player selections here, you have a choice between one-player mode, two-player contest, which is essentially the versus mode of the game, or you can able to play two-player as a team, so that way you can able to do co-op aspect of the game. But honestly, I think I'm pretty much okay on my own, so even then though, because two-player mode is okay all in all, but it's just not my kind of thing. So even then though, let's jump into one-player mode, so even then though we'll talk about more details about the actual game once we're able to get this thing started. So even then, right off the bat though, is the fact that we start things up with the first world in the game. As you can see, we actually come across into a world map. So even then, we can't do anything at the moment until we're actually able to actually explore Kongo Jungle, in this case the first world in the game. So basically, this game also came out on not only just for the sake of releasing on the Super Nintendo, but I'll explain more on that later, but basically, let's get into the forms of the very first level in the game, which is Jungle Hijinks. And right off the bat though, the actual presentation of the game looks absolutely spectacular to look at. I think this is mainly due to a lot of emphasis on advanced computer modeling, which is specifically what the actual graphical standpoints for this particular game, which I think it still looks very impressive. And then if we go down here, we do realize is that the reason why Donkey Kong looks like that, because the actual main plot of this game, for those who played the Game Boy Advance remake, do understand what they're actually able to actually represent the actual origins of the story. Basically, a long story short is that, well, as soon as when Donkey Kong managed to able to check upon the actual banana hordes, and then able to realize that every single of these bananas has been stolen, and we need to figure out who's the real culprit to able to actually realize that who stole every single bananas. Well, it turns out it was none other than King K. Rool himself. So even then, it was up to Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong to able to actually save, well, the hordes of the bananas, and then you can able to actually stop King K. Rool in the process. So, self-explanatory story though, it's nothing that, you know, dark or anything like that. It's just a very simple story. Until when it gets to the point until Donkey Kong Country 2 as well as Donkey Kong Country 3, it gets a little bit dark and serious though, which, honestly, because of how the fact that, well, you know, that's as far as I can say about it. So, as you can see from the actual gameplay standpoint, is that you'll be able to take control of the forms of Donkey Kong as well as Diddy Kong. Now, Donkey Kong, you start things off normally, but as soon as you come across into a DK barrel, you're able to actually give you an opportunity. You can able to have Diddy Kong on your side. So even then though that both Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong are both playable in this game though. So even then though, as you can see on screen, we managed to get ourselves our first animal body in this game, which appears to be Rampy, then Rhinoceros, which, if you manage to hold down the Y button, which is specifically for like a roll attack and stuff, you can able to actually charge right in front of our enemies. So even then, there's a really great way to able to actually take care of the enemies no problem. So even then though, that's as far as I can usually say about the first level. So, and by the way, every once in a while though, we actually come across into those bonus areas in the game, which by the way, if you couldn't tell from this point already, I'm actually going to be going after 100% completion of the entire Let's Play of the game, just so I can show you guys about the forms of some every bonus areas you can able to find. So even then though, that way we can able to actually just to show those off. Because yeah, with the forms of jungle hijinks, the first level in the game actually only contains like only 2 bonus areas. So even then though, and that could be also same applies with the next level we're going to be hit into. As you can see on screen, we are playing through Ropey Rampage. And this one also has 2 bonus areas in this particular level, until when it gets to the point until the 3rd level, especially noticeable in the later levels, the actual progression, especially noticeable with the actual bonus areas you can able to find, is going to be able to actually just go to like insane amount. So anyways though, for this level though, it's not too bad though, it's just that you need to be very cautious with some other enemies sometimes, most notably with the main enemies on this particular game, which there are the zingers, which you can't able to actually jump on them unless there's another way we can able to deal with them, or you can able to actually just, well, we might as well able to find things out whenever we continue proceeding through our Let's Play of the game. So even then though, yeah, as you can see from that second bonus area is the fact that once you spotted that particular arrow sign, which by the way, with that arrow sign actually represents you almost nearly towards the end of the actual level, and then if you see that little exit symbol, this means you're able to reach the very end of the level. So even then though, that's just very simple and complexing simple system. So even then though, every once in a while though, we actually come across into Cranky Kong here, which if you talk to him right here, it actually tells you the actual hints or tips or tricks. So very useful though, especially noticeable if you're having a hard time trying to find these bonus areas in the game, then more power to you, just able to actually decide to talk to him. So even then though, yeah, definitely recommend you do that. So even then though, let's move on to the next level in, you know, Kongo Jungle. We have Reptile Rumble. Now, unlike in any other 2 levels that we've already done, this level actually contains not 1, not 2, but 3 bonus areas. So even then, we can able to actually find them in time. So anyways, the first bonus area is right down there, just right up above the K letter, which by the way, if you come across into the forms of several letters represents Kong, that you must get like K-O-G-N-G, you're able to get yourselves an extra life. So even then, that is a great way to able to actually farm some more extra lives. That can be also same applies for those bananas you're able to actually collect. And as you can see, we've actually got ourselves about 13 extra lives. Well, technically it will be 14 extra lives, because much like in several other Mario games, well, to be more specifically, you know, this is before when Super Mario 64 was a thing, because, you know, this game did first came out in 1994, as I said before. In addition to the Super Nintendo version did manage to release on that year, this game also came out on the Game Boy Color, as well as the Game Boy Advance. And I believe the Game Boy Color version did came out in 2000, and then during the likes of in 2003, the Game Boy Advance remake has managed to able to came out. So even then though, that's a pretty cool way to able to actually just manage to able to obtain any kind of version you want for Donkey Kong Country. But honestly, I think the only definitive version of the game for me though was the Super Nintendo counterparts, because, well, while the Game Boy Advance version was cool and all, like, they did actually add in some extra features, like, specifically for, you know, extra content or whatever. But, next thing you notice is the fact that I've realized is that the color palettes might be a little bit washed out on the Game Boy Advance remake, but it still looks cool back then. But anyways, that's it for Reptile Rumble, but then again, only 3 bonus areas on that level. So now next up, we're going to be able to actually get into the next level, and it appears to be the first water level in the game, which is Coral Capers, which basically you can able to actually spend your time just trying to able to swim underwater. So even then though, Luckily though, unlike in any other levels of the game, this level doesn't have a bonus level, or the bonus area I should say, because, well, yeah, you're gonna be spending most of your time trying to able to swim underwater. And by the way, you know with that particular level, right next to that specific, or in this case, for this method though, you probably noticed there's actually an exclamation mark on that specific level, as you can tell from the likes of Jungle Hijinks, as well as Ropey Rampage, and even Reptile Rampage, or in this case, well, just, you know. Basically what happens is, or this, Reptile Rumble, so yeah, that's as far as I can usually say about it. That actually represents you actually found every single of those bonus areas if you gave yourselves an exclamation mark. So even then, it's a great way to able to know that if you're able to actually find every single of those bonus areas in the game, then sure enough you were able to actually just to realize that you've actually completely done with every single part of the level, so. And aside from that though, the only major differences between these three versions on the Game Boy Color, as well as the forms of the Game Boy Advance version, is that the Game Boy Color version actually contains a bonus exclusive level that's only playable on that particular handheld, which appears to be, well, later on in during World 6 though, because, well, I will explain more details onto that though whenever we get on that particular world. So for now on though, we'll have to mainly focusing on this level as it is right now. So, I will admit though right away for this point folks, when it comes to commentary and stuff, I must admit though I do apologize with the actual script error, just because, well, I know it's been such a quite a while since we actually just managed to able to do some of these, you know, some other recording sessions for now on, but even then though, at least we're okay enough as it is, so as you can see, we actually come across into our second animal buddy, which appears to be buddy forms of the Ingard the swordfish, which basically, it's super useful though if you really want to experience the water levels better, so that way you can able to actually press the Y button to able to do a little bit of a stab, right in front of the actual enemies, and then also just slightly push you forward a little bit, which I think it really helps, because either way though, if you're really having a hard time with those little really annoying fish looking enemies, then more power to you, you can able to actually use that little well-timing stab from that specific Ingard the swordfish, and yeah, that's as far as I can usually say about it. And right here, we actually come across into Funky Flights, which I don't think I can show this off just yet, but we can able to actually just mention more on that until at some point in Wednesday, because today, marks today is the forms of the 19th of Monday the 19th of August, so I've a little bit of a tangent right there. Turns out today, recently actually, about the fact the matter is though, is that the ND World Direct is being just managed to host up for this point today. Now, I'm not going to mention about this too much detail specifically though, because, well, I'll let Mario mention more on that whenever he get back on, whenever he's gonna come back onto, you know, Super Mario Odyssey. So even then, I might as well let point things out right away. So here we go with the next level in the game, which appears to be by the forms of Barrel Canyon, which basically in this particular level is going to be most likely focusing on barrel blasting. So even then, well, these are not too bad though, but whenever we get to the forms of the fourth world, it gets really, really tough and difficult as you progress. So even then, we're able to actually mention more on that whenever we get to that point. So anyway though, and also not to mention though is the fact that not only does this game manage to able to come out on the Super Nintendo in 1994, but a year later there was actually a handheld counterpart of Donkey Kong Country known as Donkey Kong Land, which I think it did manage to came out in 1995, around the same year as when Donkey Kong Country 2 came out, but we'll mention more details onto that though whenever we continue proceeding for the rest of the Donkey Kong Country series. Well, the only game's exceptions, which there are Donkey Kong Land 1, 2, and 3, because, well, I do notice about the fact that those three Donkey Kong Land trilogy of games is now being finally get its release on the actual 3DS eShop Virtual Console re-release, so yeah, as far as I can usually think about it for the time. Now, as you can see though, from that particular standpoint of this level though, if you can tell, this level actually contains 2 bonus areas, so at least even then though, these are not too bad though, and these aren't hard, these aren't not that hard to find though, so even then though, the first one you need to blasting for that particular wall with that particular barrel cannon. And then the second one, we need to use that TNT barrel to able to actually bust out this wall. By the way, depends on what Kongs you're going to be using, you can able to actually switch them at any point, which I think you have to, like, press the select button to able to do that. And, or in this case, the A button, if you will. I'm not exactly sure, because it's been about quite a long time since I actually played this game. So at least even then, though, that I can able to actually just, just trying to say that. So, anyway. Oh, really? Oh, there's my first step of the actual Let's Play. Whoops. Because, yeah, there's going to be a lot of times, though, that, this game is going to be a lot of emphasis on trial and error sometimes, which that could be followed to the other sequels here and there as well. Usually it just falls around trial and error when it comes to, like, if you really want to, like, get those levels finished and just manage to complete them, sometimes you always have to cope with trial and error situations sometimes, which I will admit, though, right away, it will happen in my cases, but until it gets to the point until Donkey Kong Country Returns / 3D, as well as the forms of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, it will able to actually add in some couple of trial and error moments here and there, which is still present around here. But either way, though, that's as far as I can say about it. Yeah, because for some odd reason is that for that particular section, I always having a hard time trying to able to actually aim on that particular moving cannon right there, which, yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a coincidence anyway. So, yeah, with those little stars, with that barrel where it has like stars on them, that actually represents those checkpoints of the game, because, well, it will be very helpful, though, for those of you able to actually keep on dying a lot on that particular, well, any of the levels of this so far. Then, basically, you can able to actually just guarantee you can able to respawn onto that specific checkpoint where you managed to activate from. So, naturally speaking, it will definitely help you throughout the journey. So, anyways, though. So yeah, as far as for my first experience with Donkey Kong Country, it was actually by the forms of, the first time playing. Oh, this is the third time I've actually missed that barrel right there. Oh, jeez. Hopefully for the fourth time for the luckiness, I suppose, but either way though, because, well, the good thing about this game though is the fact that this game is super generous with extra lives, because, well, apart from the fact that, as I said this before, that I've now managed to got myself, 17 extra lives, and I just died right there from that particular, bouncy Kremling right there, so that's kind of my mistake. Because, yeah, you ever think about it, that, much like in the forms of how it does it on Crash Bandicoot, and especially noticeable with, well, I would say for Crash Bandicoot, even though technically speaking, this is before when Crash Bandicoot exists, if you somehow manage to able to get hit at least once, either Donkey Kong or Diddy Kong, or to be more specifically, between either Donkey Kong or Diddy Kong, you'll get one hit from that particular run. So every time you get hit by any enemy contact or any hazards or anything like that, well, it's a one-hit death. So even then, you expect to able to die on that a whole lot. So even then, that was before when Crash Bandicoot was a thing. So even then, that's as far as I can say with the forms of this game, honestly, guys. It's just that it's a very fun 2D platformer, and again, that the actual graphical standpoint of this game is actually known as, well, Advanced Computer Modeling, in this case, ACM, which means, Advanced Computer Modeling. So even then, that actually represents, every single character in this game is almost like some sort of a 3D, polygons or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, because even then I haven't really looked upon too much of graphical board, but even then, that's as far as I can say about it. So anyways, though, as I said before, we actually come across into the very end of the, we already come across into those two bonus levels on that particular, or the bonus areas on this level, so let's just go and save our game. So even then, though, we actually got about 14%, so yeah, it's not too bad though. Good start for this particular point, despite some trial and errors on that particular barrel cannon level. So here we go, every once in a while though, in each, at the end of a world, we actually come across into boss fights. So here we go with the first boss in the game. We have Very Grunty's Lair, which is very simple and pathetically easy, because you have to simply jump on his head a few times, and then when you defeat the boss, then you are able to return one of your bananas back. So yeah, that concludes the first world in Donkey Kong Country. So even then though, I'm afraid to say for this point, folks, is that we got the endings off for this point here. So I'll upload one of the worlds in one video, so even as one of pointings out for that system. So join me next time at Let's Play Donkey Kong Country. Is the fact that we're going to be exploring through monkey mines. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.